Hi guys, it's Jane, and today's video is going to be all about explaining the social classes and ranks of the Joseon dynasty. As you know, the Joseon dynasty had a very rigid, very structured caste system, and basically the caste system can be divided into two large groups, which was the Yangin and the Cheongin. Now you might know that, of the pyramid that a lot of people use to describe the caste structures in a lot of different dynasties and kingdoms. But basically, the Yangin and the Sangin can also be split further into smaller categories. So of course we have the Yangban, which I think I explained in my previous videos. Basically the nobility, the aristocrats, the bureaucrats, they're called the Yangban. And then we have the Junin, the Sangin, the commoners, and then we have Cheonmin. So basically it's 4 ranks. And then of course there's the royal family who's above all 4 of those. So basically the Yangbans are usually the ones who serve in government. Sorry, that's my dog. So the Yangbans are usually the ones who serve in government. They're the ones that say 통촉해 주시옵소서 전하. If you watch any sageuk, they're going to be the ones usually wearing the red or the blue, or basically wearing the silk, wearing the color. If you watch dramas, they are going to be your rich people. They're going to be your Yangbans. And the Junin is also probably the class that is hardest to define, but they can either be the illegitimate sons of the Yangbans, or just people that are richer than commoners, but they're not a part of the aristocracy. And then we have the Sangin, who are your farmers, your merchants, those normal people who are not slaves, but of course they're poor. And then we have our Cheonmin. Cheonmin, there's 백정, there's 노비, 기생, and then 무당, 무녀. These are your Cheonmin. So basically Cheonmin, if you are to say it in English, they're like the untouchables. They're like the people that are not considered people in this society. So and of course, like any society back then, women were lesser than men, even in that lowest of the low class. Now, in the Joseon dynasty, what was really important in determining your whole life was your lineage. It was called 족보. So my dog is playing with her toy over there and she's growling, so apologize for that. 족보. It's like a chart, like a family tree. So this family tree and where you're located on that family tree basically determines your whole life in the Joseon dynasty. Because there's something called the civil service exam. Like the mandarins in China, you have to take a civil service exam to get a spot in the government. Unless you own a huge plot of land where you can just rent it out to farmers. Which was the case for a few people, but even so, they usually had positions in government. But in order to get a position, you had to take 과거 in order to get there. But only certain types of people who qualify to sit that exam. And of course, education also determines your social class. And education, who can get education in these types of societies back then? Usually, definitely not girls. Like, no matter who you are in the caste system, if you're a girl, no education for you. Unless you are the daughter of a really high-ranking nobleman, then maybe you'll get to read 내훈 at the very best. 내훈 is something that Insudebi wrote for women, noble women basically, and taught them how to dress, how to wear, how to talk, how to be good wives and mothers basically. So it's like a book of etiquette. So that's usually all they learned. And of course, some noble women, they knew how to write Hanja, they knew how to write Chinese. If you're a girl and you weren't a daughter of a really rich aristocrat, then no education for you. And then there are also hakdang, and there are also private tutors back then. They also existed. So usually if you were rich and if you came from a good family, you got an education, and if you weren't, then you did not. Because most of the lower class just had to work in order to live. Now, I'm going to actually be making another video about the politics of the Joseon dynasty and the different types of government there were. There's samsa and then there's yukjo, but I'll explain that in another video. But basically, the higher up you were in government, the higher up you were in the social class. And then, of course, there are the members of the royal family, who, no matter how far you are from the king, you are still treated with more respect than the Yangbans. But then, of course, there's a trade-off, because it's easy, people want to kill you more if you're related to the king, obviously. So that's basically the Joseon dynasty's class system in a nutshell. But if I'm to go back to the Junins, who I said were kind of hard to distinguish, it literally just means middle people, because 중간. 중간 in Korean means middle. 중인, in is ren in Chinese. So it means person, so middle person is what it means. So it's like usually illegitimate sons of Yangban who fell out of the aristocracy, or just people who were just commoners, but they achieved wealth or they achieved status somehow. Now, what's really unfair here, and something that I just like to bring up, was that if a nobleman had lots of wives, and there were different ranks for all of his wives. So he had his first wife, who was his 본처, and then he had some second, third wives, basically. So these second, third wives, if they had sons, they would be called 서자. 서자 means like illegitimate son. And then if they had a daughter, they would just be an illegitimate daughter. But of course, there's this thing called 기생, right? This is a whole other class. These are the courtesians. These are lowest of the low, but then they also have a lot of money because men pay to see them, basically. And then if a nobleman had a son with a 기생, then they would be, since their mother's status is so much lower than that of even a commoner, they would be considered even lower than a 서자, which is a illegitimate son. They would be considered like 얼자. If 얼자 is the son of a nobleman whose mother is either a slave or a courtesan. And of course, if the courtesan or the slave gave birth to a daughter and the father, who was a nobleman, decided not to take their daughter and take her in, then they would follow their mother's class. So if, say, a 기생 had relations with a rich nobleman and she had twins, a son and a daughter, rich guy might take the son, but if he decides not to take the daughter, then the daughter also becomes the lowest of the low, while the son moves up and becomes 중인. So that's unfair, but that's basically how it happened. Another very remarkable 중인 was 홍길동. I'm going to be doing a video on him too, but he was a 중인. He was an illegitimate son. And then 상민 is, again, if you watch any like Joseon Dynasty drama, like 사극, they're usually the ones that are going to be wearing hemp. Like 약간 이런 색깔 옷, patch 많이 있는 옷 입고 약간 얼굴에 흙 묻혀져 있고. They're usually the 상인s. They're like peasants, farmers, merchants, craftsmen. Like the people who do physical labor and they don't have a lot of money are 상인. And they make up like 70, 80, maybe not 90, like 80% of the population. Because of course this class system wasn't exactly fair. And then of course we have the lowest of the low. Like I said, they're the 기생s, the courtesians, and then we have the slaves, and then we have butchers. The butchers, why were butchers the lowest of the low, you might ask? Why are they not just commoners? It's because what do butchers do? They kill cows and they kill pigs, and they deal with the blood and they deal with basically corpses of animals, right? So it wasn't considered by Confucian ideals to be a respectable job, and therefore they were lowest of the low. But of course for courtesians there were special cases like 황진이 or other notable 기생s that I can't bring up off the top of my head, but there were special cases where some 기생s, especially during like the more turbulent times of Joseon's history, managed to either become second, never first wives, but like second or third wives of very powerful noblemen, or become very rarely, but sometimes like even the concubines of kings if they managed to, seduce a king. Actually, I should do another video about like the concubines of kings and how that worked too, but that is for another day. And this brings me to the end of my video. I hope that taught you a little bit more about the class system in Joseon. Thank you for watching. Bye!